Okay. So you know by now what's been happening. Paul has been being shuffled from here to there. He's still in Caesarea. Then the Felix, the governor, comes and he wants to actually send him back, if possible, to Jerusalem. But somehow he will appeal and say that he appeals before Caesar as a Roman. And we realize that God gives him amazing wisdom to fulfill God's purpose in his life. Okay. So let's see what happens. Now it says that Festus had come to the province. After 3 days, he went up from Caesarea to Jerusalem. So now Festus has gone to Jerusalem, and he's based out of Caesarea basically, and he's the governor of that place. And the high priest and the chief men of the Jews informed him against Paul. They petitioned to him, asking a favor against him, that he would summon him to Jerusalem while they lay in ambush along the road. So their only aim is, how do I kill Paul? And I told you this even last time. Many people are so much more in love of the church, the building, whether they are Protestants or whether they're Pentecostals or whether they're Jacobites or whether they're Lutherans. They're really not in love with God. And this is a classical example of a group of people. They were so much in love with Judaism that they couldn't see anything beyond it. They didn't want to know God. They didn't want to understand the truth about God. None of those things mattered. The only thing that mattered to them was one thing, and this one thing was, this man is against Judaism, kill him. It's not like understanding this man is actually fulfilling the prophecies of the Old Testament. He's bringing to light of the things that was hidden from us, that was never there. At all times, the only thing they could think was, he is the enemy of Judaism. But now look at this. Now Festus answered that Paul should be kept at Caesarea, and he himself was going there shortly. Therefore he said, let those who have authority among you go down with me and accuse this man to see if there is any fault. Okay. So now again, they're not able to do what they wanted, and that was to shift him back to Jerusalem. Okay. And see now what happens. Now, this is a picture that we would see. It will be something like this. That is, there would be a throne which was called the judgment seat, and they're supposed to judge from there. And when he had remained among them more than 10 days, he went down to Caesarea. The next day, sitting on the judgment seat, he commanded Paul to be brought. And when he had come, the Jews who had come down from Jerusalem stood about and laid many serious complaints against Paul, which they could not prove, while he answered for himself, neither against the law of the Jews, nor against the temple, nor against Caesar have I offended in anything at all. So they tried to say, he was anti-Roman, he was anti-Jew, he was sacrilege he did in the temple. But finally, when Paul could answer, they realized that there was nothing that he did wrong, and there's no real crime that was against him. Okay. Then it says, but Festus wanted to do a favor. For whom? For the Jews. Now, this is what we read last time also. Felix had one problem. He just felt that he should be popular. He tried to talk to him nicely. Later, he wanted money from him. But none of them were actually willing to say, this man has done nothing wrong. How can we arrest him? So now Festus wants to do a favor. He answered Paul and said, are you willing to go up to Jerusalem to be judged before me and concerning these things? Now, Festus knew one thing, that if he did this favor for the Jews would kill him. And he thought for some time he will have a popularity because of that. So Paul said, I stand at Caesar's judgment seat where I ought to be judged. To the Jews, I have done no wrong, as you very well know. For if I am an offender or having committed anything deserving death, I do not object to dying. But if there is nothing in these things of which these men accuse me, no one can deliver me to them. I appeal to Caesar. When Festus When he had conferred, the council answered, "You have appealed to Caesar you shall go." Now, being a Roman citizen, Paul had every right. It is like saying over here, "I appeal to the Supreme Court. You judge me." From a lower court, it goes to a higher court. From the higher court, he says, "I would appeal to the Supreme Court." So if you understand, the Roman system was very, very amazing. If you're a Roman citizen, there was tremendous amount of protection that was given to you. If you know really, till the time of Julius Caesar, Caesars were not children of Caesars. They were elected democratically based on the capabilities they had. So Rome actually had a very good system, and even any man had the privilege of actually saying, "I appeal to Caesar." And here Paul therefore appeals to Caesar. So now it would mean that Paul would finally have to go to Rome. And it was Paul's desire always to go to Rome. And for Paul, he was looking at this opportunity in one way. What are the one way? Every time he was able to share the gospel to people he could have otherwise never reached. He was able to share the gospel to the governors over there and to the equivalent to Herod over there. And in the end of the day, he felt that his presence there itself was before. So here we find the king called Agrippa. So who's Agrippa? Agrippa is the king of among the Jewish people. Doesn't have much of a power. He's a puppet king under the Roman Empire. But in the end of the day, he was also given a lot of importance. And it says, after some days, King Agrippa and Bernice came to Caesarea to greet Festus. So they come down because Caesarea was actually the huge garrison capital or the army capital. When they are there for many days, Festus laid Paul's case before the king, saying, "There is a certain man left a prisoner by Felix, whom the chief priests and the elders of the Jew informed me when I was in Jerusalem, asking for a judgment against him." Now, so Festus is saying, when Felix was the governor, there was a prisoner. Now Felix has left, and Festus says, "Now I am the governor. And I really do not know what to do because the problems are all something to do with Judaism." And he says, "To them I answered, is it not the custom of the Romans to deliver any man to destruction before the accused meets the accusers face to face and had opportunity to answer for himself concerning the charge? Therefore, when they had come together without delay the next day, I sat on the judgment seat and commanded the man to be brought in. When the accusers stood up, they brought no accusation against him or for such a thing as I supposed." Now, what is Festus telling Agrippa? See, I cannot understand where the problem is because finally I don't see a charge. But yet he's in prison. Yet he has been in prison for 2 years by now. And people had only one thing: how do we kill him? Now, he goes on to say, but some had questions against him about their own religion, about a certain Jesus who had died, whom Paul affirmed to be alive. And because I was uncertain of such questions, I asked whether he was willing to go to Jerusalem to be judged. But when Paul appealed to be reserved for the decision of Caesar Augustus, I commanded him to be kept till I could send him to Caesar. So now this is Festus' story, and he's telling Agrippa, these are the things, and Paul is right here. Okay. Then what does Agrippa say? He says, "I want to hear this man also." Again, you see, God is fulfilling the desire that Paul had, that each one of these people could listen to the gospel. So one governor would listen, the second governor would listen. Now the king, Herod's son Agrippa himself will listen, and he says to Festus, "I would like to listen." So the next day, Agrippa had come with his wife Bernice. There was great pomp. They enter the auditorium with the commanders and the prominent men of the city, and Festus asked for Paul to be brought in. And Festus said, "King Agrippa and all the men who are here present with us, you see this man whom the whole assembly of the Jews petitioned to me, both at Jerusalem and here, crying out that he was not fit any longer. And when I found that he had committed nothing deserving death, and that he himself had appealed to Augustus, I decided to send for him, you know. So in the end of the day, we come to the situation where Paul is still a prisoner in Caesarea, but he continues to meet people, but more important, he's able to share the gospel to the highest officials of the land. And he tells over there that I have nothing certain to write to my Lord governing him. Therefore, I brought him out before you, and especially before you, King Agrippa, so that after the examination is taking place, I may have something to write. For it seems to be unreasonable to send a prisoner not to specify the charges against him. It's an interesting story, right? A prisoner without charges, who's wanted dead by the set of Jewish fanatics, who's been in prison for many, many years, who is not complaining about that, not cursing, not angry, not upset, not angry with God, not angry with people, but using this as a great opportunity to preach the gospel. What does it teach us? It teaches about the way a person who's committed his life should behave, where he believes in every circumstance. He believes in every situation that God is in total and absolute control. And he's looking at it and saying, God, you are in absolute control. You brought me here for one purpose. And that one purpose is to display the glory of God, display the message of salvation. And he uses this opportunity not to complain, not to get depressed, not to get worked up, but to hold fast to his faith and ensure each one of them would hear the gospel. They all were given an opportunity. They rejected him, that's a different story, but they're given an opportunity. Maybe one of you is going through a difficult circumstance in your life. Maybe you feel things are just not right. And God will be saying, I'm taking you through the journey that right here, you will testify and glorify God in your life. I pray that you will not be discouraged, like Paul is not discouraged. He's kept unfairly in jail and done nothing wrong, full of lies, but yet to use that opportunity to glorify God. So tonight, I just want you to look at the situation you are in, difficult or good, understanding that your Father in heaven knows everything that's happening in your life. He will take you through this and you'll go to the other side safe. But during that time, he's looking at you to glorify your Father in heaven. So good night, everyone. And we shall continue with 26 next time.
Good night, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor.